Well.
Plus, the oldest house in one Milwaukee suburb and the woman who's lived there her whole life. What happens to her now that her house has a date with the wrecking ball? You're watching an hour-long edition of 12 News at 10. Way house, but his prison cellmate tipped off authorities to his alleged bomb threat.
And experts say Mount St. Helens is still building up to a major eruption. A 25-minute tremor rumbled beneath the volcano in Washington state today after a release of steam yesterday. Scientists say both signs point to the volcano getting ready to blow. The presidential candidates have had their first debate. Now their running mates are set to take the spotlight.
Dick Cheney and John Edwards face off Tuesday in the only vice presidential debate. 12 News' Kent Wainscott says both candidates will be looking to score a breakthrough.
Well, there'll be plenty of hype surrounding the vice presidential debate, and afterward there'll be a lot of analysis. But in the end, what may be missing is the debate's impact on the election.
Vice presidential debates have been around for the past several elections, and there have been a few memorable moments. 8 years ago, Al Gore leveled a now familiar charge at Jack Kemp, accusing his opponent of flip-flopping.
The day after he joined Senator Dole's ticket, he announced that he was changing his position.
4 years earlier, Ross Perot's running mate caught everyone by surprise when he interrupted a lengthy exchange between Gore and Dan Quayle.
And I think America is seeing right now the reason this nation is in gridlock.
That even drew applause from Stockdale's opponents. But since then, the VP debates have been calmer, even polite.
I have great respect for Dick Cheney. I don't agree with a lot of things he said in this campaign, but I have great respect for him.
Are voters swayed by it at all, do you think?
No.
Marquette University Dean of Communications Bill Elliott has studied all of the vice presidential debates and says they haven't played much of a role in recent elections.
The vice presidential debate is sometimes a topic for conversation for a day or two. It is not critical in voters' decision.
And that even holds true for perhaps the most memorable moment in vice presidential debate history from the 1988 campaign.
I have as much experience in the Congress as Jack Kennedy did when he sought the presidency. I will be prepared to deal with the people in the Bush administration if that unfortunate event would ever occur.
Senator Benson.
Senator, I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Even Lloyd Benston, very, very carefully rehearsed, I knew Jack Kennedy and you're no Jack Kennedy, in response to Dan Quayle. Got a great audience response, got a lot of media play for about 1 or 2 days.
This time around, instead of trying for a memorable moment, the candidates may simply be concerned with avoiding any memorable mistakes.
I don't think it'll swing votes one way or another, unless there would be some absolutely amazing error, and neither side is going to do that. These are all very competent candidates.
So chances are good that there may be one moment or a catchy phrase or remark that comes out of the debate, and the analysts may even declare one of the candidates a winner. But it remains to be seen whether any of that carries through to Election Day. I'm Kent Wainscott, WISN 12 News.
Now, the only vice presidential debate of this election comes on Tuesday between Dick Cheney and John Edwards. I'll be there in Cleveland. You can watch for my reports on it. And on Friday, the presidential candidates square off in their second debate in St. Louis this time. 12 News' Kent Wainscott will be there in 12 News.
I feel great, and I really enjoyed the chance of saying to the American people, here's how I'm going to win this war on terror. Here's how I'm going to keep this country secure and safe. I mean, you know, since I last talked to you, the world has changed a lot, and the American people saw that I know how to lead during this very difficult period. And last night I wanted to assure them that we'll continue to fight the terrorists wherever they live and disrupt the flows of weapons of mass destruction, to continue to make sure Iraq and Afghanistan are free, because we have an obligation to our children and grandchildren to work for the peace. And I enjoyed it, I really did. And
the president will be back in Wisconsin this Thursday. He'll attend a rally in Wausau. Both candidates in this presidential election are battling for every possible vote.
We've heard for months about Wisconsin being a swing state that could go either way. Well, a closer look at one local community shows just how evenly divided voters are. West Allis was important enough that President Bush made it his very first campaign stop, visiting State Fair Park the morning after he accepted the nomination at the Republican National Convention. Voters in West Allis barely favored Bush over Al Gore in the last election. Out of nearly 30,000 votes cast, Bush won by just 284. In fact, in one part of West Allis, here in Ward 15, Bush and Gore finished in a dead heat, exactly tied. It could be another down-to-the-wire finish this time. You don't have to look far in West Allis to find people expressing opposing views. A Bush-Cheney sign displayed in one yard, and not 20 feet away in a neighbor's yard, there's a vote for the Carrie Edwards ticket. The mail carrier sees them all. She says the yard signs for Carrie may slightly outnumber the ones for Bush. At a recent block party in Ward 15, some neighbors got a bit over-passionate about politics.
Not really mad. The tone got quite loud. It was, instead of just being the, well, yeah, you know, I can see that, it's certain people took a very strong view, and you know, certain epithets went back and forth. Obviously, the signs were a topic of conversation, and a lot of folks were expressing their political beliefs, and it was really interesting how opposite people are on the same issue.
A few blocks away, another West Allis resident knows her own voting-age daughter will cancel out her vote, mainly because of one key issue.
I favor Bush in the war situation. I think he's got the guts to get out there and get a job done, and he's not going to quit until it's done.
But your daughter says what?
My daughter thinks that it should be ended now, and that people shouldn't be going to war, and, you know, leave all the different countries alone.
At West Allis City Hall, voter interest in this election has workers extra busy. They've got a huge stack of applications for absentee ballots, and people show up here every day to register to vote. The mayor, a former Democratic state lawmaker herself, admits that the one-time stronghold for Democrats is slowly shifting.
We have seen this movement. Where it was a solidly Democratic community years past, we have seen some changes. In some of the elections, they still vote heavily Democratic, but in the presidential race we've seen, and the governor's race, we've seen some movement.
The city flag calls West Allis a center of opportunity. It could also be the center for another tight election. Volunteers for both George Bush and John Kerry have been going door to door in West Allis trying to convince residents to vote for their candidate. And one more note from the nation's capital today was the annual Red Mass for the U.S. Supreme Court. The service is held the Sunday before the court goes into fall session. Among the key issues they'll examine this term, medical marijuana, racial segregation in prison, and whether juveniles convicted of murder are eligible for execution.
The Brewers' season finally comes to an end.
Well, the Packers' season could be over soon if they don't find a way to stop opposing offenses. The D lets Green Bay down again today. Dan Needles and Andy Kendi have team coverage next in Big 12 Sports.
And the only car to get 2 top safety awards this year. You're watching WISN.
Lambeau Field. It's no coincidence that Green Bay is off to its first 0-2 start at home since 1988. They were favored by a touchdown at Lambeau today against the Giants. You thought maybe this would be the spark. Darren Sharper with an end zone interception of the Kurt Warner pass. But the offense never got on track in the first half. Amon Green loses a fumble for the 3rd time in 4 games, a scoreless game at halftime. Brett Favre was not having a very productive day, but had the pack moving in the 3rd quarter when he was knocked out with a concussion. Thanks to William Joseph. Favre immediately grabbed his helmet. He was taken off the field with that concussion. Just a few plays later, Mike Sherman put Favre back into the game, not knowing that the medical staff didn't want Brett to play. He then hits Javon Walker for a 28-yard score on 4th and 5. The Pack take the 7-0 lead, but that was it for Favre today. Green Bay's run defense, again, ripped to shreds. Tiki Barber just squirts right through the middle. 52 yards for the score to tie the game. Barber rushed for 182 yards today. New York then took their first lead of the game in the 4th quarter. Warner to Jeremy Shockey, 4-yard TD, 14-7 G-men. Twice Doug Christie had a chance to seal the deal, but twice the Giants kicker was wide left from short range. So there was still hope, but Doug Peterson's interception late in the 4th quarter ended any hope. The Packers fall to 1-3 with the 14-7 loss to the Giants. Now, without Brett Favre, the Packers have no chance to salvage the season, but you would anticipate Favre will be back on the field 1 week from tomorrow. Andy Kendi joining us now live from Green Bay with the latest. He's not there.
I thought they think that...
Andy, are you there?
Players I am here.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Dan.
All right.
Yes, the players agree with you. The players think that Brett Favre will be back next week against the Titans. For Brett Favre, today was his 193rd straight start at quarterback, 214 if you include the playoffs, but for the 6th time in his career and the 2nd time in as many weeks, Favre fails to finish a game that he started. And for the first time, he gets knocked out by a concussion, and Favre's teammates truly know that this is serious stuff.
You know, he's our diamond, so if he can't go, if he's not, you know, they're not going to put him in there unless he's, you know, he's going to be safe, and, you know, they have to do what's, this is a long season. They have to do what's right for him.
Now, this season has truly been a soap opera, both on and off the field, from the Mike McKenzie issue to the locker room fight between two of the rookies. Packers truly a mess right now. And Mike Sherman today, for the 2nd consecutive week, decided to make Mike McKenzie inactive. No surprise there, because he allegedly has a sore hamstring. But what was surprising was that Mike McKenzie did not watch the game from the sidelines with his teammates. Mike Sherman says that McKenzie was getting treatment. So you add to that the fist fight between Joey Thomas and Ahmad Carroll, and you have a recipe for disaster. So the players would disagree with that.
You know, it's a distraction maybe to you, but to us, you know, we're professionals in here, and fights happen, and who cares about that?
That's not been a distraction for us. I mean, I don't view that as a distraction. I mean, when guys out there, guys not thinking about where Mike at. I'm saying guys out there thinking about what they got to do to win that play.
If you let any outside distraction become a major distraction, you're hurting the team as an individual.
That's Michael Hawthorne, who replaced Mike McKenzie in the starting lineup. But we do know this, that the Packers are 0-3 since Mike McKenzie ended his holdout. Packer sources say that they're still trying to trade McKenzie. The trading deadline is October 19th, so the Pack a little more than 2 weeks to dish Mike McKenzie. Reporting live in Green Bay, Andy Kennedy, WISN 12 Sports. Dan?
All right, Andy, and once again, who do we blame for any problems? Mike McKenzie.
Mike McKenzie.
Thank you. NFL parity is coming into play once again. Only 4 teams have a worse record than the Packers, and they are traditional powers: the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the 49ers, and the Buccaneers. But one traditional power keeps rolling along. The defending Super Bowl champion Patriots earned their 18th consecutive win, counting the postseason. That ties the NFL record held by 5 other teams. That's Richard Seymour. 68-yard fumble return for a touchdown to clinch New England's 31-17 win over Buffalo. The Bears still tied with the Pack for last place in the NFC North Division. Jonathan Quinn's first start at quarterback for Chicago, not to be turned a success. Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens hooked up on yet another touchdown pass for the Eagles, who are now 4-0 after beating the Bears 19-9. Do some sit-ups. Next up for the Packers, the 1-3 Tennessee Titans, who are dealing with injury problems of their own. Steve McNair not playing quarterback. Billy Volek did, but he was overshadowed by San Diego's Drew Brees. 58 yards for the score there to Rashae Caldwell. The Chargers shocked the Titans 38-17. And 5 NFL teams are still unbeaten. The most surprising of those 5, the Atlanta Falcons, now 4-0 after thrashing the Panthers today. That's Kevin Mathis, 35-yard interception return for a score. The Falcons win 27-10. The Badgers now ranked 15th and 16th in the major polls, heading into Saturday's showdown in Columbus against Ohio State, now 15th and 18th in the polls. That game will be here on WISN 12, 2:30. The Badgers have remained unbeaten thanks mainly to their defense. They allowed only 1 score against Illinois Saturday and have given up only 26 points in 5 games.
We know what we can do as a defense if we put everything together, and we're just trying to do that.
We're getting better. I think I know the defense a little better now than I did a week ago. But I think, they'll all be first to tell you we've got to continue to get better.
The Brewers have set a new Major League record, the worst second-half record for a team that had a winning record at the All-Star break. But there was some good news today in the final game of the season in St. Louis. Lyle Overbay came into the game batting .299, but he finishes at .301 officially. Overbay went 2 for 3 with a pair of doubles, raising his franchise record total for the season to 53. That leads all of Major League Baseball. But The Cardinals win the game 9-4, so the Brewers finish with a worse record than last year, 67-94. The Cardinals open the playoffs against the Dodgers on Tuesday. There was one playoff spot filled today, and it goes to Phil Garner and the Houston Astros. They beat the Rockies 5-3 to clinch the NL wild card. Houston closes the season with 7 straight wins overall, 18 in a row at home. They open the playoffs Wednesday at Atlanta. They're going to the World Series. And a wild day at Talladega having nothing to do with champagne in the locker room. On pit road, Kevin Harvick locked up his brakes. The Jackman had to leap over the car to avoid getting hit, then almost got hit again. And then there's the final lap of the EA Sports 500. Greg Biffle hits the wall, taking out Casey Kane. Now, they kept the green flag out for a dash to the finish. Dale Earnhardt Jr. holds off Harvick for the win. Watch the infield grass. Elliott Sadler flips over onto his roof and then back onto his wheels and rolls across the finish line. Matt Kenseth finished 14th. Dale Jr. wins the race, takes over the Nextel Cup points lead, but he may be docked some points because he cursed during a post-race interview, which is a no-no.
Oops.
It is a no-no.
Boy, we have some football coming up. The Badger game Saturday at 2:30 right here, and Monday Night Football, the Packers.
The Packers, and it's going to be a matter of survival for 2 1-3 teams.
Yeah. You get a lot of rest this week to gear up for this weekend. All right, thanks, Dan. See which cars stand up best to a side impact crash.
Also coming up, a local woman gets ready for a new beginning after more than 80 years in the same house. You're watching WISN.
Car gets a bad safety rating. 8 popular midsize vehicles ranging in price from inexpensive to luxury. All were rated by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety on a scale of poor, marginal, acceptable, and good. The best performer, a moderately priced vehicle, the Saab 9-3. It's the first passenger car to earn the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety's rating Best Pick in both the front and side impact crash tests.
The double best pick category is a rare thing in our crash testing so far.
Also rare, for now anyway, inexpensive cars coming with standard side impact airbags that protect both the head and torso. Mitsubishi put both in its Galant as standard equipment, and it went from a poor to good. The Acura TL and Lexus ES330 were also rated good. The Volvo S40 earned an acceptable rating, as did the luxury models of the Mercedes C-Class and Saab 9-5.
What we're seeing in these tests is that you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money to get good side impact protection, and spending a lot of money doesn't guarantee that it will be the best side impact protection.
Take the Jaguar X-Type. It received a marginal rating.
We saw on the driver that there was too high a risk of rib fractures and possibly internal organ injuries.
In a statement, Jaguar pointed out that in the test, both occupants were protected by deployment of side airbags, and in government side crash tests, the X-Type has achieved a 4-star rating. The Insurance Institute says it's unlikely that any cars would pass this test without side impact airbags. But even with standard side impact airbags, many vehicles have room for improvement. Side airbags come as standard equipment on 27% of all 2004 model vehicles. Well, most people have a pretty interesting story to tell.
But most don't have one quite as long as this woman from Shorewood. She lives in the oldest house in town, and she has lived there her entire life. 12 News reporter Mike Anderson asked, what's your story, as she gets ready to move on.
Way back in 1921, a little girl was born in this small house next to a barn on Milwaukee's east side. 83 years later, nestled between the gardens and trees off a busy Oakland Avenue, the house, expanded and remodeled, is still standing. It's the oldest one in Shorewood, but not for long. The village bought it and 2 other properties on the block to make way for new development. So, where's that little girl who has lived here all her life, and what's going to happen to her?
You can't pick these. You got to use the scissors because you can't bust that off of there. Bust your fingernails.
There she is, Gladys Gores. It was just our luck that we dropped by in time for a treat to catch her harvesting her vineyard for the last time.
These are good. Why you spit out the seeds? Why you don't eat the seeds?
I don't like those seeds.
Oh, you don't like them?
They're too hard.
Too hard.
Oh.
Do you make wine too?
No, I just make grape juice. I put the whole bunch of, pot and let it cook a while and mash it down and then get it boiling a while. Then it turns, maroon color.
Gladys took me downstairs to the freezer to sample the final product. And along the way is where you really get a sense of how old her house is.
See, there you can see the rocks a little bit better, and here you can see how the rocks are in here. And they lowered the basement 18 inches to keep it from falling in. Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's see that grape juice.
There we go.
See, that's what it looks like. See?
That looks good.
But it has to defrost.
You'd think that someone who has lived in the same house for so long would have a hard time leaving. But Gladys is looking forward, not backward. This will be her new home, Luther Manor, a senior living community on Milwaukee's northwest side.
I'm renting a 2-bedroom apartment there, and then I can have fun doing something else.
Besides, she says they made her an offer that was too good to pass up. And on that note, I suppose a toast is in order.
Oh, those are rum balls.
That's what keeps you healthy. Okay,
yes,
there's
you
your
have
secret.
one.
Really?
They are that dangerous.
Now,
They're hard, though.
I'm on the job now.
They're hard.
I'm on the job. Is that all right? Yeah.
Sure, there's not much.
Okay. Should I just eat it like this?
Well, you better be careful. That's hard.
It tastes like rum.
But it's hard.
It's rum, all right.
All good cheers to Gladys. Mike Anderson, Shorewood, 12 News at 10.
I'd say after 83 years, Gladys deserves as many rum balls as she wants.
She sure does.
Whatever house she's living in.
Eat them all up, Gladys.
Here are tonight's winning lottery numbers.
You're watching WISN 12.